Goodreads actually did a survey to find out what folks thought were the top 10 Pratchett novels were. Then we asked ChatGPT, what are the 10 best Terry Pratchett novels out there? And then on our YouTube page, we did a poll to say and asked some of you what your favorite Terry Pratchett books were. Hey everybody, thanks for joining today. We're doing something a little bit different. We're doing our very first official collaborative D3R video. Jeff, welcome.
Hey, yeah, we're going to jump right in on the meaty topic of Terry Pratchett.
Oof. Yeah, this is good. We've been looking forward to this for a while now. But real quick, for those of you who have been with us for the last few months, I've been doing a lot of the videos dealing with the written word, and Jeff here, who reads every bit as much as I do, if not more, is on the road a lot, and so his specialty lately has been the audiobooks. This is the format, this is actually the preferred format that we've been wanting to do, but because of things, it just never seems to work out. So real excited about this and super excited about talking Terry Pratchett. He's one of the formative authors of our era growing up. I wanted to start off real quick by reminding you, Jeff, and those of you who might not know, coming up in November, there's a book coming out called Designing Terry Pratchett's Discworld by Paul Kirby. Paul Kirby is the artist who did
many of the covers.
Yeah, he did a lot of the artwork for Terry Pratchett. He was very close to Terry. Sir
yeah,
Terry.
He was Terry's favorite, wasn't he?
Yes,
yes. There was more than one.
Yeah, there's more than one, but the quote that they put out there on Terry Pratchett's Facebook page was that Terry thought that no one captured Discworld and the characters like Paul did. And so this book is coming out. It's fully illustrated. You can pre-order it now, but it's coming out November 12th. Anybody who's into Terry Pratchett, that's something to look forward to. So Jeff, this is going to be a tough one. Everybody, what we're doing here is we're talking the best of Terry Pratchett. We're restricting the conversation to Discworld novels. 41 novels he wrote from the period 1983 to 2015. Over that period, 35, what I think of as regular Discworld novels, and then he wrote an additional 6 young adult Discworld books as well. I gotta fess up, I never read the young adult ones. I meant to, never got around to it. That's gonna show up, because what we're gonna do is Goodreads actually did a survey to find out what folks thought were the top 10 Pratchett novels were. And we're gonna bring that up, and we're gonna use that as kind of a point of departure. Then we asked ChatGPT, what are the 10 best Terry Pratchett novels out there? And we've got that lined up ready for reference. And then on our YouTube page, we did a poll to say and asked some of you what your favorite Terry Pratchett books were. And then, so we're using that as a guide. And then Jeff and I, who have read every single Pratchett, minus the YA, though, Jeff, I think you said you've read some of the young adult?
I have picked up some of the young adult, yes.
Okay.
I have.
So we're going to go through and we're going to try to hash through and finally land on what the top Terry Pratchett Discworld novels are. All right. So there are no other guidelines. This is completely subjective. And, while I'm thinking about it, put down in the comments what your top 3 Discworld novels are, your top 3 favorite. I'm very proud of the fact that I've read 35 of his novels, and I need to reread some of them because it's been a while. I need to revisit some of my favorites there. So real quick, Jeff, looking at the Goodreads list, the Goodreads poll came out and said, I Shall Wear Midnight, number 6. That's one of the Tiffany Aching. I Shall Wear Midnight is one of the Tiffany Aching novels, number 6. Thud, number 7. Guards, number 8. A Hatful of Sky, another one of the Aching novels. And then Feet of Clay, number 10. I already have problems with this list, Jeff.
Yeah. Okay. So no, that's wrong. I mean, technically, all of the Pratchett books are number 1 on the list, but they're not all equal number 1. But there's no way Guards is that far down on the list.
That's huge. That's huge. I'm going to go ahead and jump out there. Guards is at the top of my list, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in some detail here in a second. And I'll give you the valid reasons for it. Now, I haven't read I Shall Wear Midnight. I haven't read A Hatful of Sky, so I can't really speak to those. So, Jeff, I'm going to let you stand up for them if you thought that they stood out. But Thud did make my overall list. It's not on the top 5 of my list. I actually have it as number 9, I think. But I also want to point out, guys, except for the top 3 on my selected list, I'm willing to. You might ask me tomorrow, and I move them all around because I love these books so much, and each one of these of my absolute favorites is kind of depending on my mood will shift around. But Thud, I think that sticks out about Thud. Thud is the one about the dwarves and the trolls, right?
The Troll Wars, yeah.
Yeah. In the town of Ankh-Morpork, there's a lot of tension going on. A prominent rabble-rouser kind of dwarf gets murdered, and it spikes tensions between the dwarves and the trolls as this festival commemorating this famous
club
battle.
left at the scene.
What'd you say?
There was a big old club left at the scene, a
Right.
big troll club.
So this is one of the Night Watch, City Watch novels.
Yeah.
And so they have to investigate this murder of this prominent dwarf. And during this period of heightened tension, it's got veterinary in it. It's got all the my favorite characters in this. So Thud, the thing that stood about Thud is I felt it was really a complex story, really layered. This is where Sybil is pregnant.
Yeah. No, is she
Little
pregnant?
Sam.
I thought he was reading "Is This My Cow?"
He may have, but they may have mentioned it. But it's possible I could be mixing it up. But I thought that was the one where little Sam hadn't been born yet. But
you might be right. You might be right. It's been too long.
But the point is that it was a really complex story, a lot going on, a lot of charged emotions between the dwarves and the trolls and Vimes and the politics with veterinary and and it was just a really, really neat layered story. And I remember that standing out to me. So it's definitely in a top 10 list. And so I'll agree with Goodreads on that. Feet of Clay, I remember enjoying, but not a whole lot stands out except that it was a golem story.
Yeah, it dealt a lot with hero worship and putting too many ideals on your hero, and when you do that, they're going to let you down at every turn.
Gotcha.
It was a really good underlying theme to that book. It wasn't one of the major arcs that caught my eye.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, maybe upon rereading it, it would make more of an imprint. But yeah, so I wouldn't have put Feet of Clay in a top 10 list. So let's compare that to the second half, to 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 of ChatGPT. Going Postal, number 6. The Light Fantastic, number 7. Men at Arms, number 8. Soul Music, number 9, and Thud, number 10. So both of them have Thud in their top 5, or excuse me, their top 10, which is, again, appropriate. Soul Music, I liked it, but it didn't make my top list. Men at Arms did make my top list. And I have to admit, none of the Rincewind novels made my top 10. And I think that might be an oversight on my part. What about you?
Well, okay. I didn't come into this with my list put together. I came into this with just thinking about Terry Pratchett. So I had in my mind an idea of, say, 3 major storylines. And then the genre that offshoots from each of those storylines being arcs that were some of my favorites. So if for no other reason than nostalgia, because The Color of Magic was the first one I read. And,
Right.
You get to see the evolution of Death, who was wanting to kill Rincewind in that book, and then Pratchett begins to develop the character, and he's like, yeah, that's not how death operates. So he changed that around later. There's a couple of death books, and they excel once he really gets the character going.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, Rincewind, obviously, I mean, he's what introduced, when we first read Rincewind, this idea of a wizard who thinks it's unfair that, a wizard has to be good at magic, I mean, got the robes, got the hat. So I think that my list is already flawed because I did not include. Well, actually, that's not true. I do have Rincewind in one, but none of not the color of magic. So yeah, I'm just a little surprised that
that
the
oversight.
color magic or light fantastic didn't make my list. This is going to be a tough one. We're going to start whittling down to our top 3, and so far as comparing the ChatGPT to Goodreads, thud, and that's it. But but when you look at the top of their lists, so counting down for Goodreads, they have number 5, The Shepherd's Crown, again one of the Tiffany Aching novels.
Yeah.
The Truth, number 4, Men at Arms, number 3, Going Postal, number 2, and then number 1 they have Night Watch.
Okay. See, Going Postal was an excellent book, and it's not number 2.
I love Going Postal. It is not number 2. You are absolutely right. It is not the second best Terry Pratchett book out there. It is. Oh, I love it. Moist.
Moist von Lipwig.
The thing about Going Postal that really sticks with me is that when I first saw the summary, the synopsis, I was hesitant to read it, even though it was, it came out in 2004. So we've had over a decade of Terry Pratchett books, two decades of Terry Pratchett books to be confident in. But I saw an article, I saw he had this book about, the post office. I wasn't sure this was something I wanted to read, and when I finished it, I just loved the book. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they did a TV adaptation of Going Postal. BBC did. And one of the things that they got entirely wrong was there's a climactic scene at the very beginning where they're giving Moist von Lipwig the opportunity to walk through a door or do exactly what Lord Vetinari says. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to walk through the door and die. I'll just do what you said. And whoever was Vetinari's assistant says, what's on the other side of the door? He said, it's the exit. It goes out to the barn. No one ever takes it. And in the TV series, there was some vast, bottomless pit cavern.
No, that's from the book. That is in the book. That door you plunge off, because that's how at the end of the book, the main bad guy who runs the Clax Towers, he gets the same choice as Moist does, and he said, you know what, I'm taking the door, and he dies. So yeah.
Well, I guess I've got that wrong. I don't know how I messed that one up. Okay, anyway.
Brain thing. That's okay.
Brain thing.
Going Postal, we agree, belongs on any good top 10 list, but not towards the very, very top.
Yeah.
All right. Let's compare. Let's see if ChatGPT did any better, because they have number 5. Well, at least this is right, or this is getting towards right. Number 5, they have Hogfather. The fact that Hogfather's not on the Goodreads list, I think, is a crime.
Yes.
Weird Sisters, absolutely fantastic book. That belongs on a top 10 list.
Yeah.
Number 3, they have Guards. Yes, that belongs towards the top, if not the very top of a list.
The very top.
Mort. I liked Mort a lot, but I would not put it towards the top of the list.
Not the top of the list, but it was an excellent book. It brings more character to Death.
Death is such a wild character. I love that. Yeah. The thing about, Pratchett and Discworld in general is that if you pick a character, almost every side character will get the limelight at some point.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he planned it that way. Cut me own throat. He's a
Moving
side
pictures.
character, and then come moving pictures, which both these lists have completely ignored. And I think is absolutely, they should be in jail.
Yes.
But when you get to moving pictures and you get him playing a much bigger role than just the side guy selling the sausages, he is. I mean, all his characters are so distinct, hilarious.
Detritus. Yes, sir. Hit this man. Right, you are, sir. Terry Pratchett will take an NPC and build a world around them so that you absolutely can't imagine a world without somebody who was just an NPC a book ago.
Right. They have ChatGPT put the color magic as number one. I disagree with that. And
I understand it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
I was reading an interview with, was he an editor? I forget what role he had, if he was like just a publisher. He was a friend and associate of Terry Pratchett. He said that he felt that a lot of the first couple of Terry Pratchett's books didn't age well. Not because they were off color or what have you. It's just that, he hadn't gotten into his full stride yet, and they don't, they don't carry the same punch that they did.
He's not building the characters the same way. Yeah.
Right. So, and I could see that with these. I mean, if you get into the late '80s and stuff like that, and he's really hitting his stride with his characters and all that. I really felt, and I'm going to go ahead and just jump to my favorite, that Guards was like when he was going, all cylinders were firing.
Yes.
You got the color magic in '83. You have the Light Fantastic in '86. Super fun to read. Okay, Weird Sisters. Okay, Weird Sisters was great. So maybe Weird Sisters is when he starts firing on all cylinders. Then '89 Guards with the introduction of Captain Vimes, Carrot. I mean, the City Watch.
Yeah, Night Watch.
Right. Oh yeah. Right. Yep. Good point. So you've got the character. It's like every book that came out. My first question was, is it Vimes? Is it the Watch? Because I wanted to see Nobby. I wanted to see Colin. All the characters that made up the Watch. Guards to me, that's my number one. If you force me to pick one of all my babies here, I'm going to go with Guards. It's got too many classic characters. Vimes is probably in a lot of the ways, the heart and soul of a lot of his Terry Pratchett's.
Vimes is the police, the police branch of the Pratchett novels, and that he was so well built at a foundation. The very first book we get introduced to Vimes, he is so well done that it's carried throughout. He doesn't change. So I mentioned earlier, Death was out to kill Rincewind, but then that changed because Death became just something that happens. He becomes natural. Vimes was Vimes from the gutter to the mansion.
But he does evolve though some. Remember how much he hated the idea of taking on vampires, taking on zombies and everything else and expanding the Watch. He hated that idea. Wanted nothing to do with it.
Oh yeah.
But he wound up becoming, a little bit more nuanced. But you're right, his moral compass never changed.
Yeah.
To me, Guards belongs to the top of a list. What about you?
Yes.
What would you say?
That's it. That's silly to ask. There's no other book. The Guards is if there was one book that I could only, this would be the only Terry Pratchett book I could get to read. It's Guards.
Fantastic. All right. Yep. So setting aside the Watch, what would you say would be your next?
It's gonna have to fall with the Witches. It's gonna have to be the witch storyline. Granny Weatherwax, Nanny Ogg, they're just too quintessential. They are so the characters are so well built. I cannot let them go away. That has to be in there.
He turned a psychotic cat into, a cherished character.
Grebo, man.
when
Oh,
when
yes.
he turned him human, I mean, he
He
did it
was the sort of
perfectly.
man who could sit quietly in another room with his hands folded in his lap and still sexually harass you.
I agree that has to be at the top. Again, I remember the first time I was reading like Weird Sisters, I wasn't sure. I was like a main character who's like kind of a grizzled, ancient, witch kind of character. Is that, can you do that? And the other one is like, a plump kind of a matronly, old witch. Can you
Busybody.
make? Yeah, can Nanny Ogg be, a main character? Can Granny Weatherwax be? And they, oh heck yeah,
They
they
are.
can.
Oh, they
Yeah.
fill up a room.
Oh, just love. Yeah. So those are definitely good. There's so many good, but I want to talk about, small gods. I want to talk about the time, thief of time, those kind of one-off characters. The great god Om. For it, I love how in Pratchett, the gods get their powers from belief, and
Yeah,
you had the great god Om, who's only got one real believer anymore, so he just finds him
brother.
brother. He finds himself, in the form of a turtle. But if I had, so if I have a fire in my house and I got to pick up only a couple of books, it's going to be Guards, and it's going to be The Last Hero, and it has all the great
Gorgeous.
characters except for Vimes. Is he there? Maybe mentioned. I think he's mentioned on a page. So,
Yeah, they get mentioned. The wizards get mentioned. Vetinari.
yeah, and besides the just beautiful illustrations and this idea of them going out over the rim and the secondary story of, or in the parallel story, excuse me, of Cohen the Barbarian, who again another just fantastic character climbing the mountain of the gods. It's just
And Dread Evil Harry.
Dread Evil Harry, the last hero up there in that top portion. If you had to talk about threads, City Watch, Night Watch books among the favorites. The Witches,
Yes.
definitely up there as well. The last hero in the Cohen story, The Last Continent.
Interesting times.
Interesting times. That's what I meant, actually. Yeah,
Oh,
interesting times.
man.
To kind of wrap this up for those of you watching here, I'm going to say that the best Guards, The Last Hero, and I'm torn between Moving Pictures and Weird Sisters, because if I had to pick a top three, because Moving Pictures is just a delight to read. What about you, Jeff? Top three?
Okay, so we've got Guards, and we've got Weird Sisters.
Okay.
And then for number three, I almost I have to just to build the story arc. I have to go with the Rincewind story arc. There's
Okay.
just too much. There's just too much lost if you don't have that that built in there, because the wizards are such an interesting character. They all have. I mean, he fills a room full of wizards, and they each have very distinct personalities, and he writes them all so well. So yeah, I'm going to go with those three, but I have to throw in honorable mention
Sure.
with Moving Pictures and Soul Music. I do that because he makes so many pop culture references to music in soul music, and my other honorable mention is Pyramids,
Oh,
because
yes.
Tepik and the Assassins
Yeah,
Guild
yeah.
is
Pyramids needs to
just
be in there too.
yes.
Yep, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. Okay, guys. Those are our lists. Who do you agree with? ChatGPT, Goodreads, Jeff, me. I did mention the D3 poll, the D3R poll that we did. The number one selection was Hogfather. So
That's hard to
that's
argue with. That's back to
yep.
death. He was excellent.
Men at Arms and Going Postal was tied for number 2. Reaper Man number 3, and Lords and Ladies was brought in too by comments. So all there. I don't think there's a dud among them. If I had to pick one book that I just didn't laugh, just completely lose it, and just cherish, it was Eric. And it may have just been because it was so short. It
was a very short book.
Yeah,
it was based on Faust, and it was,
Yep.
it was still excellent.
Yep. What do you guys think? Let us know what your favorite Discworld novels are, and if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. We're almost 260 subs now, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks, guys.
For hanging out.
We'll see you next time.
Later.